development. It's been cataclysmic in developing Africa's economic and just letting people know what is needed and drive innovative strategies and ecosystem building. And that has earned him prestigious awards and accolades globally. Let us put our hands together and welcome Kevin Ayaba to the stage as he takes us through this. Come on. I'm not seeing emojis. I'm not hearing people clapping. What is going on with you guys? Kevin, over to you.
I clap for myself. Hello, Josephine and Verona and entire SME Foundation. Hello to everyone that has joined us from across the globe. I'm really excited. I know I can talk a lot, so I don't want to do that. So what I've done is I tried to summarize what I had to say, just to, put it in a writing format. I'm just going to create for you so that we can all get it, because I have, like I said, when I'm doing this, I'm always very excited, and maybe I can pass my time. But once again, thank you, everyone. Let me just go through to what I've put together to share with our audience today and those that have joined us. Here we go. Distinguished guests are fellow ecosystem builders, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. As for me, my name is Kevin. Josephine already shared that. I am the convener and the founder of APEP. As we come to know it. Although I'm speaking to you virtually from Johannesburg, I feel deeply connected to all of you gathered in Kenya and online and online. First, I want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to our incredible partners, the SMEs, the SME Founders Association, ASEP country partner for Kenya. In less than 4 months since becoming our partner, they have demonstrated exceptional commitment and energy. Together with organized ASEP labs, like Josephine mentioned earlier on, creating vital spaces for connection and fostering critical conversation about our ecosystem. This aligns perfectly with ASEP's vision of breaking down silos and promoting collaboration. To the team at ASEP Founders, at SME Founders Association, your dedication and impact are truly commendable. Africa, just to share a little bit of the potential that we have in our continent. Africa has the potential to become a startup superpower in the tech sector, home to the world's largest free trade area and vibrant entrepreneurial culture. The continent saw 22% of Africa's working age population start new businesses before the pandemic of 2020. People in Africa have shown a willingness to embrace technology. For example, bypassing landline to adopt mobile phones, or embracing e-banking and money in place of traditional banking. Funding for tech startups on the continent is growing at an impressive rate, 6 times faster than the global average. Let me give you an example. We had a record of 4.9 billion that was raised in 2021, which was here. We are talking about the heart of COVID. The amount more than tripled 1 year, but this is still a fraction of the total. African startups account for just 0.2% of the 3.8 trillion value globally. Cumbersome regulations, the digital skills gap, limited funding, highly fragmented market continue to hold startups back. This is from the report from the Global Institute. As I speak to you today, I am reminded of the incredible energy and innovation I witnessed when I was in Nairobi last year to host the second edition of ASEP. The launch event was organized and was treated with vibrancy of the Kenyan ecosystem and met extraordinary individuals, visionaries, innovators, and tireless supporters of entrepreneurship. Your passion and commitment left an incredible and undeniable mark on me and reinforced my belief in the power of ecosystem. Now, let me share with you the incredible journey of ASEP since its inception in 2022. We launched the initiative with a clear purpose to address the challenges faced by ecosystem builders to celebrate these unsung heroes who tirelessly support entrepreneurs and to advance ecosystem building as a powerful tool for economic development. The growth and expansion we've witnessed has been nothing short but phenomenal. Let me talk about the 2024 only. In 2024 alone, we welcomed 6 incredible new members to our advisory board, from Kenya to Rwanda to South Africa to Ghana. Our country partners, we've expanded our reach with 10 country partners, now serving with 10 countries now serving as country partner, amplifying our impact across the continent. Recognition and participation. This year, we received over 2,089 nominations from 44 African countries. This overwhelming response is a testament to the vibrant, dynamic nature of our ecosystem builders community. Celebration of excellence. We've established 30 award categories that comprehensively represent the diverse 5 facets of our ecosystem. Our panel of judges has done an incredible job in selecting top 5 finalists for each category, setting a stage for what we fondly call Oscars of African Startup Ecosystem Builder. To all the nominees from Kenya and the finalists who are representing this great nation, I say bravo. Your contributions are not just shaping Kenya's future, but are inspiring ecosystem across the continent. As we celebrate this achievement, we must remember why ASEP was born. We saw a problem, ecosystem building working in silos, a lack of inclusivity, and fragmented approach to supporting entrepreneurs. ASEP was created to solve these challenges, to bring ecosystem builders together, to promote collaboration, and to ensure that our startup ecosystem are truly inclusive and representative of Africa's diversity. This brings me to our theme for this year, Inclusive Entrepreneurship Designing Africa's Startup Ecosystem on Diversity and Collaboration. This is a theme that we are going to be having in Ghana. This theme is not just a statement, it is a call to action. It challenges us to rethink how we build our ecosystem, to ensure that every voice is heard, every talent nurtured, and every opportunity accessible to all. As the African proverb goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Similarly, it takes an ecosystem to grow a sustainable and impactful startup environment. No single organization, no matter how capable, can do this alone. We need each other, and we need diverse perspective, varied expertise, and collaborative spirit. Looking ahead, I am thrilled to announce that ASEP 2024 will be hosted in Accra, Ghana from October 2 to 4, 2024. This upcoming summit promises to be a most impactful yet, bringing together ecosystem builder entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers from across the continent and beyond. So I stand here today, not just to share our progress, but to extend an invitation to join us in this crucial mission to ecosystem builders across Africa. Consider becoming an ASEP country partner. Bring ASEP vision to your local ecosystem, just like what SME Founders Association is doing for Kenya. Foster collaboration and be part of a continental movement. To corporate and organization, we invite you to sponsor ASEP initiative, starting with SME Founders Association with the great work that they are doing in Kenya, to extending to those our country partners that we have in the rest of the 10 countries. Why not to the entire continent as well? To everyone listening today, collaborate with us, share your insight, challenge your successes. Let's learn from one another and grow together. Remember, when ecosystem builders come together, magic happens. Ideas spark collaborations are formed. What once seemed impossible became not just possible, but inevitable. As we continue our discussion today and the months to come, I challenge each one of you to think big. How can we leverage our collective expertise to create ecosystems that are truly world-class and inclusive? How can we ensure that the benefit of entrepreneurship reach every corner of our continent? The challenges are significant, but are so the opportunity. If there is one thing I've learned in my journey in this, when ecosystem builders come together, united in purpose and diverse in perspective, we can overcome every obstacle. Thank you for your attention today. Even though we're separated by distance, I feel the energy and passion of the Kenyan ecosystem. Let's continue to build, innovate, and to transform. Together, we are not just building businesses, we are building an inclusive and collaborative and a thriving future for Africa entrepreneurs. I look forward to the incredible discussions and connection that will emerge from this event today. Let's be together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you. Wow. All right. Let me say this. If you have any questions for Kevin, please put them in the chat. Then we will get to them at some point during our session today. So just put your questions in the chat. Kevin has told us he saw a vision and he ran with it in order to solve challenges, promote inclusivity, and ensure every voice is heard. If you're an entrepreneur or you're even thinking of going into business, your voice will not be heard if you're not part of an ecosystem. So that is the first thing that I've heard from Kevin. Your voice will not be heard. You have to be part of an ecosystem so that people out here can hear you, so that you can help leverage our collective knowledge in building ecosystems. And it's only in having an ecosystem and in growing ecosystems that we can grow a sustainable environment for businesses. And the other thing he said, the award ceremony, October 2nd to 4th, 2024 in Accra, Ghana. So please, keep note of those dates. Keep note of what we have been asked to do, be part of ecosystems, join together in order to grow, because Africa can solve its own problem if we all come together. Thank you so much, Kevin, for that. Our next speaker is Velona Wendy Okech. Velona is an accomplished leader with over 12 years of experience in program management, communication, and advocacy, with a focus on gender equality, equity, and the intersectionality in both programming and business. Yes, programming as in IT staff and business. As the executive director of SME Founders Association, she spearheads initiatives that empower entrepreneurs to grow, scale, and thrive in the African market. So you've heard from Kevin about his idea and what he's doing to enable ecosystem growth and businesses to grow. Velona empowers entrepreneurs to grow, scale, and thrive in the African market. She has also co-founded organizations like Snetscom, an IT company that focuses on quality, innovation, and speed, utilizing technology to bring results to grow businesses. ClickPulse, an internet technology company to bridge the infrastructure gap in multiple verticals. And finally, Nexus Edge Consult, an IT consulting company that helps career professionals and organizations thrive by providing IT consulting and IT training services. These, what I have said before, demonstrate Velona's commitment to fostering innovation and resilience in communities. Her expertise spans building strategic partnerships, mobilizing resources, and advocating for the inclusion of marginalized groups. Beyond her professional achievements, Velona is passionate about good food. Not just food, good food, sports, and enjoys a quiet time to recharge. She will be speaking to us on how we can work together to build businesses. Velona Okech, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
See you. Oh, there you are.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's give it up for Velona. Over to you.
That's an amazing introduction. Thank you so much, Josephine. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I think it's still morning in Kenya. Good morning, good afternoon, whichever place you are joining us from. Our esteemed guests, our partners, and fellow ecosystem builders, I'm so happy to see you here and to actually reach at the helm of the Kenya chapter, ASEP Awards. And it's truly our honor to convene with you today and also to celebrate and advance the cause that is very close to our hearts. So as we have been talking about building ecosystems, building partnerships, coming together, today is about working together to ensure our businesses are growing as holistically. Our businesses are growing to such an extent where we can call each other ecosystem partners and ecosystem builders. So we are building an inclusive and collaborative startup ecosystem in Kenya. And on behalf of SME Founders Association, I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone. We are proud to be the partner and convener of this Kenya chapter in collaboration with Set Up a Startup. And we are all geared towards moving to Ghana and maybe in future having bigger and bigger events as we move on. We are here not just for a summit, but we are here because we are a movement. We are here because we believe that there is potential in African entrepreneurship. And most importantly, because in collective power of coming together, we can be able to create ecosystems that work for everyone. It is about ensuring there's a bit of diversity, there's collaboration, there's inclusivity. And to me, those are just buzzwords, but the foundations, they're not just buzzwords, they're foundations on which our entrepreneurial ecosystem is built. You know, people say that these are just the normal hashtags we put around, but they're not just hashtags, they're not buzzwords, but these are the foundations that actually build our entrepreneurial ecosystem. For years, entrepreneurs have, across the continent, have faced various barriers, and that stemmed from the lack of resources. This is one of the biggest things that so many entrepreneurs are facing right now, getting adequate resources to actually have our businesses up and running. We do not have the appropriate networks. It's always said that our network is our net worth. And this is really true because for you to be able to close deals in businesses, you really need a strong network. And then you also need to be exposed to the right opportunities. But through efforts like what we are having right now, the ASEP Awards, we are shifting this narrative. We are creating spaces where diverse voices, including those from marginalized communities, are heard and valued. We are building bridges between startups, investors, policymakers, and other key players. And most importantly, we are laying the groundwork for a more equitable and thriving future. Over the few weeks, I think we've gone through the labs and the sessions we've been having, and this is something that has culminated to what we are doing today. So SME Founders Association's mission is to foster growth and sustainabilities for SMEs by enhancing their competence, their compliance, and access to capital. As we took the role of being the convener of the Kenya chapter, it was clear that this summit aligns perfectly with what our vision is of supporting entrepreneurs who are not only driven by profit, but they want to impact the society, they want to impact the communities they are working in, and also go beyond. So today's event is not a culmination, or is the culmination of several months of planning. And it is also the starting point of much, much more. As I said, we are not only looking to go to Ghana, we are looking to reach a point where all the African countries can come together and celebrate various entrepreneurs and those people who bring a difference within this, the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So it is a call to action for us, for each and every one of us here to learn and apply whatever it is that we have been picking up from the labs over the past few weeks and apply it in our networks, in our businesses, and in whichever initiatives that we are engaged in. To me, everything needs to be about your passion for what you're doing, passion to impact the community, passion to reach a point where your business now empowers everyone around you. So it is about moving from conversations to tangible solutions. As you've seen, I'm very passionate about IT, about digital platforms, about innovations, and that is where the world is going right now. with a lot of e-commerce coming up, a lot of digital solutions coming up. And this time round, we want to make sure that Africa is creating its own innovations within its own digital platforms. So this kind of innovation can lead us to new ventures, it can lead us to stronger partnerships, and ultimately, we need to have an inclusive economy. As we are all convened here, we are celebrating those who have made this possible. So I want to recognize those among us who have gone above and beyond in driving change, innovating, uplifting others. So the ASEB Awards is just a reminder that every effort counts and that each step we take, no matter how small, contributes to the building an ecosystem where everyone has a fair chance to succeed. So as we move forward, I would like to urge all of us to be intentional, to collaborate. We need to break down the silos that we always have, and we need to embrace diverse perspectives. The success of our ecosystem lies in our ability to work together, in our ability to work across various sectors and across borders. And this is why ASEB is very critical, because it dissects all sectors, all platforms, all borders. So we are drawing from our collective strength. Let us build Africa where startups thrive because they are supported by a community that are united by shared values and a common goal. There is a saying that you are because we are, and I am because of everyone who is here. And this is in the motto of Ubuntu. I know McKevin can give a better speech of this, but there is no way I can be who I am if the rest around us are not okay. That is the African culture. So we need to be able to come together to ensure that our values ensure that we are able to achieve our objectives and reach a common goal. I would like to express my gratitude to Set Up a Startup for leading this initiative, and to all the partners who are here. I would have loved to name each and every one of them, but it would take a long time. It would be a very, very long list. But feel appreciated for all those who have been able to make this a success and to be able to make this summit possible. So I am confident that what we have started here will echo beyond this platform, and it will create ripple effect, because to me, I love when an initiative reaches a point where it creates a very big ripple effect and affects the whole community and the society. As we dive into discussions and engagements today, we need to remember that each one of us has a role to play. Let us commit to being champions of inclusive entrepreneurship so that as we come together, we can design an ecosystem that truly reflects diversity and the richness of our continent. If you look at how much richness we have, then you will finally realize that Africa is a true gem. Right now, everybody is scrambling to come back to Africa because they want a piece of what Africa has. But we need to make these ecosystems valuable for our people and for our communities. Thank you, all of you, and I look forward to various insights and collaborations as we move towards ASEB Summit and Awards in Ghana. I would love to see all of you there.
Wow. Okay. All right. It keeps getting better and better. If you haven't yet told your friend to join, you're not a very good friend. Please tell them to join. Thank you so much, Velona. We have heard from Velona about it's time to move from conversations to solutions, to create our own innovations, because in this way we will have new ventures, stronger partnerships, and each step will contribute to being better as Africa. So we need to be intentional in collaborating, to embrace diversity, to work together, because startups thrive across borders. All right. Thank you, Velona. Thank you. Guests, panelists, everyone, we have come to a very interesting session. I usually like these sessions because they teach me so much. We have come to the panel discussion, today's panel discussion. And for today, we have two moderators, which is also another first, different from what we had We've had the last few times where we've had only one moderator. Today we have two moderators, and you can see them on the screen. Vivian Mike Eze and Edwin Moindi. Now, Vivian, I told you, is the founder and CEO of Elogi Consulting. She is a people and communications expert with 15 plus years of international experience, including senior management across diverse corporate environments. She is also Elogi Consulting is a firm that provides coaching and training in leadership communication, as well as marketing communication services. Leadership communication, let me tell you from a point of view of somebody who's been in the corporate world, is really very important because there are people in management who are not leaders and therefore do not know how to speak to their people. If you feel that your managers don't know how to speak, this is your person. Go to her so that she can call them together and train them on how to write good emails and not tell us to circle back and low-hanging fruit and such things. And we don't want that. So talk to Vivian. Vivian also has a superpower. Her superpower is connecting people, building cohesive teams, and helping individuals improve their relationships by becoming more aware of their personality, strengths, and challenges. She is passionate about public speaking and creating memorable experiences for audiences. Do not clap right now. I'll tell you when to clap when I'm done. Don't clap right now. Okay. Our other moderator is Edwin Moindi. Edwin is the CEO of Moindi Consulting. And now, Edwin has more stamps on his passport than a post office. When was the last time you visited a post office, anyone? Anybody? When was the last time? Do you even remember what a postal stamp looks like? If you do, Edwin has more stamps on his passport than a post office, having traversed Africa, America, and Europe in his professional journey. He's a licensed business coach and the go-to guru for SMEs. He works with SME Founders Association and the Christian Business Angels Network. He's also a director at Kenan Capital, a firm that raises capital like it's second nature. Hey, I know somebody. When he's not busy transforming businesses, he's sharing his wisdom on governance, strategy, risk management, and change management. He has over 20 years of experience, including as a regional role at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he's practically a business wizard. Just in case you're wondering, why am I talking so much about these people? I know them personally. I have met them. I have interacted with them. They're my friends. So if you don't have anybody to toot your horn, look for me, make me your friend, and I'll do the same for you. Anyway, there's more to Edwin. He's not just a business powerhouse. He's also an author, a life coach, and a habit whisperer. A habit whisperer is that person who tells you how to change those bad habits you have to good habits to make your life better. So he writes about self-discovery and empowerment and coaches individuals and teams to achieve their best selves. Remember what I told you about getting somebody to train your people on how to speak? After you've got Vivian to train people on how to speak, come to Edwin to show them how that team can become better. Off the clock, Edwin is an avid reader. The only person I know who reads more books than I do is Edwin Moindi, and I read a lot. So when I say I read 5 books a month, Edwin reads like 10. Oh my goodness. He's a passionate traveler and a youth empowerment champion. Edwin has a project called the 10,000 Plus Project that aims to educate 10,000 underprivileged children by 2030. If any one of you has a heart for children and wants to help educate underprivileged children, please link up with Edwin. Edwin is a dynamic professional with an uncanny ability to juggle multiple roles. That explains why he can read, in case you are wondering, and still find time to inspire others. So guys, this is the place I was saying, wait for me. Let us give it up for Edwin Moindi and Vivian Mike as they take us through the panel discussion. Over to you, Vivian and Edwin.
Thank you so much for that illuminating, illustrious introduction, our convener, Josephine Osumo. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my esteemed pleasure to welcome you to the panel discussion that is titled Inclusive Entrepreneurship, the Future of Africa's Startup Ecosystem. Now, I want us to set a basis by asking a very specific question to Vivian. And this question is to just illuminate and give us an understanding of what it's all about, because you may be here and you're wondering, what is this inclusive entrepreneurship? So for a moment, I want to pose this question to you, Vivian. What does inclusive entrepreneurship mean? And why is it important for the future of Africa startups?
Thank you very much, Edwin. And good afternoon, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here today. So let's start by defining inclusive entrepreneurship. Let's think of a model that empowers individuals from all walks of life, regardless of the background, regardless of the gender, regardless of the economic status, to participate in the creation of businesses and solutions. Now, why is it important in Africa? Well, Edwin, did you know that by 2030, so that is virtually tomorrow, 40% of the global youth will be African? 40%. We have a diverse, a young, and creative, dynamic population that is ready to drive change. And this is exciting, right? I'm excited to be African. It's exciting, but remember what Mike Kevin said at the beginning of this call. African startups only account for 0.2% of the global startup value. 40%, 0.2%. Do you see the gap here? Why? Because many entrepreneurs, especially women, people from marginalized areas, people from rural communities, face hurdles when it comes to setting up businesses. Which type of hurdles? Access to resources, access to networks, access to markets, business opportunities. And this is why we have initiatives like ASEP that are so crucial and critical to close this gap. Okay. So what we want to do in Africa is to harness the full spectrum of talents that we have available in Africa, okay, male and female. We want to empower individuals to become job creators instead of job seekers, right? So, to answer your question, why is it important in Africa to look at inclusive entrepreneurship? Because it is simply critical for prosperity of the great continent.
Okay, thank you, thank you. That is very well put. Now I want to segue on to my panel, or our panel, to be more exact. And it's an illustrious panel. We have two ladies and one gentleman who will sharply deliver on the objective of this panel discussion. Let me introduce them to just bring forth what they're all about. Let's start with Joseph Kimofo. He is a development specialist in enterprise development and finance access. Born and brought up, just hear this out, the valleys between Mount Kenya and the Aberdares. He's a believer in social and economic change and invests most of his time in supporting enterprises, designing and implementing development programs in the enterprise ecosystem. He's a business leader at a leading bank foundation. And besides that, Joseph serves as a council member at the Institute of Credit Management Kenya Council. He is the president of Business Dialogues Toastmasters Club. So, in fact, when you start hearing him speak, you will be spot on in wanting to join Toastmasters if you haven't. And a Rotarian. He enjoys spending quality time with his family and loves music, adventure, social moments that uplift his soul and mindset. Welcome, Joseph Kimoko.
Thank you very much, our moderators, Moidi and Vivian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph. Our second panelist is Pamela Kaburu. Let me tell you a little bit about Pamela. Pamela is a dedicated monitoring and evaluations research and learning specialist, global communities. While her work revolves around numbers and data, which I assume it should, Pam, as her friends affectionately call her, believe that true beauty lies beyond the figures. She's passionate about nurturing potential and firmly believing that with the right opportunities, everyone has something unique and beautiful to offer the world. She was born in Meru, the fourth of 6 siblings. She has a deep faith in God and humanity that guides her approach to both work and life. As a team player, she invests in people, helping them discover and amplify their strengths. And outside her professional life, Pam is a loving wife and proud mother of 2 amazing boys. When she's not immersed in work, she cherishes quality time with family and friends, and often engaging in deep and meaningful conversations that resonate with her belief in power connection. Pamela Kaburu, welcome.
Thank you so much, Edwin and Vivian. I'm so glad to be here.
And may I add, in order to ensure that we enjoy all our panelists, I'll invite all of you as you get introduced to keep your view on Joseph. We look forward to seeing you all through our session.
Thank you for that. And finally, Kiresha Abdullahi. Born and raised in Garissa, and she's affectionately known as the girl from the north. As the executive director at the Institute of Human Resource Management, IHRM, in Kenya, she leads a membership of over 19,000 HR professionals. With a master's in HR management and over 18 years of experience, Kiresha is a transformative force in advancing HR practices, both nationally and globally. Now, her extensive career spans government, non-profit, education sector, and reflects her deep commitment to driving change and enhancing competencies and fostering innovation in HR. Simply said, she's done a lot in HR. She's a certified human resource professional, a certified human resource auditor, and a generous emotion intelligence practitioner. Literally, she's done a lot of certifications around this area. She excels in motivating teams to reach their full potential and is dedicated to mentoring young professionals and to becoming the best version of themselves. Kiresha's leadership is characterized by a vision to inspire, impact, and bring excellence and meaningful change in the HR profession in Kenya and beyond. Welcome, Kiresha.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm happy to be here today. Santeni.
Thank you. Now, let me just jump in and start off the panel discussion with my first question. And this is just a quickie bit of question to engage all of the panelists in getting to know them a little bit more. Joseph, I'll start with you, if you'll allow me. You've grown up in between Mount Kenya and the Aberdares. Could you tell us how your environment influenced your belief in social and economic change? And do you think that the beauty of nature around you shaped your view of entrepreneurship as a tool for change?
Thank you very much, Wendy. It was just a great experience growing up in a place called Nyeri between Mount Kenya and the Aberdares. Being a boy and enjoying each and every day. The games and even the love that from us. But most importantly, it's the experiences that I have about the place that really come back into my mind and look back into how they have really shaped my worldview about opportunities, about challenges. And I will tell you, one of the things that I did not really realize is how high Mount Kenya and the Aberdares are. And when I look back and looking at myself today and seeing my desire for hiking, that I desire every time to go up a mountain, go up to higher grounds, and connect that with my life. I look at hiking and going up mountain being challenging. And just going back to my home place, the place is usually characterized by long dry spells, but it is very agriculturally productive. What does that tell me? There are challenges, but there are so many opportunities. One thing that happened in my life is that I never went to bed without food, but there are families that would go to bed without food. The challenges that are brought up by rain-fed agriculture come into the cycle of life of so many families. So looking back at those challenges and entrepreneurship, being a problem solver, being a contributor to the economies and the social welfare of each of the families, I feel that with intensified entrepreneurship activity, looking at the place today and comparing it with when I was a young boy, there has been a transformation. There are budding and growing businesses today that are solving some of the challenges that the people in Kieni specifically are facing. Just think about a pump, a solar-powered pump that powers an acre of land for a certain family in a place near Kiawara market where they sell a lot of onions. That solar pump being sold by that hardware, that shop, is solving a problem. And the investment going to the farm is again coming back, bringing money to the family and also to the economic system. So my point here is we can see a lot of challenges in our environments, but those challenges present opportunities. I think I was not sharp enough to see how high Mount Kenya was and Abadia were when I was a boy, but I see that today. I would say that that has really opened my eyes, has opened my mind, and I look to greater attractions, not just the heights, but even in terms of success that entrepreneurs can get, even when they have gone through challenges. Challenges, problems, yes, but opportunities. And the achievements and fulfillments can be up there. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Joseph, for that. I love the mindset that you have in being able to scale all the challenges that present themselves to you. I'd like to now segue on to Pamela and ask a question that leads from Joseph's discussion. I know that in your vast career, you've had lessons based on your work in agriculture, peace building, and cooperatives that would surprise us. The question revolves around how can it drive inclusive entrepreneurship? And could you pick one particular lesson that we could learn from based on your experiences?
Sorry, Edwin, could you kindly read the question again?
Okay. Based on your experience in your work in agriculture, peace building, cooperatives, I'm sure there's a lot that could surprise us in terms of how the depth of what you've done. So my question is, in those areas, could you pick one lesson that could tell us a little bit more about inclusive entrepreneurship and lessons that we can pick from that?
Sure. Thank you so much again for the opportunity granted. And one of the lessons that I have really learned, having worked in a couple of sectors, is that opportunity is what actually humanity requires. Looking at agriculture, we grew up in families where we did farming most of the times to just put food on the table. Yet when you look at our economy as a country, we rely so heavily on agriculture for our, to grow our economy. And that means the effort that goes into agriculture can actually be redirected. Look at peace building initiative, communities where there's a lot of tension. Usually there's always the drivers of the conflict and the reason as to why people cannot peacefully cohabit. And what do you do? How do you redirect the energies that people put in? Because humanity is not really wired to just keep fighting for the sake of fighting. And therefore, every time I look at all these opportunities, and right now I am working within the cooperative sector, one thing that really stands out across all the sectors I have worked is that opportunities is what humanity really requires. A little faith in humanity, a little help, a little push here and there, injecting, support, because support means different things to different people. So number one is sitting down with people to really understand what is it that they need help on that can actually redirect their effort and their energies into something meaningful. And even as we talk about inclusive development, and right now we are working within the cooperative movement that is so solid and very strong. When we look at the quick facts around cooperative movement, especially in Kenya, over 63% of households or individuals in this nation directly depend or indirectly depend on cooperative for their livelihoods. Yet we have a movement that is really has not taken time to be that inclusive. And what that means, if we are not deliberate, we'll continue empowering a section of the population. Yet our population, we are a youthful generation as a country and also global. I mean, when you look at Africa, according to United Nations, 70% of the population of Africa is youthful. They're actually below the age of 30. Yet when you look at the cooperative movement in Kenya, and actually it's mirrored globally, and especially in Africa, over the average age is over 50 years. The average age of the members of cooperatives is over 50 years. And therefore that tells you there's a whole generation that has been left out. And we have an economy that is so strong. We have, trillions of money coming from the cooperative movement. And what we are trying to ask ourselves, so what happens? The young people are left out. Will it die with the generation of our fathers? We are here to make a change. And therefore, what I've come to realize is that there's less awareness. Every time we talk about cooperatives with the young people, they look at it as that thing our parents did, that thing of the old people. They are not even interested, less information out there. But we are here to change the narrative. We are here to really share the story. We are here to make cooperative enticing, of course, through innovative approaches for the young people. And therefore, for me, I believe that opportunities is what we are supposed to really to extend to everyone. Women, when you look at our population again as a country, and also it's also mirrored in Africa, 50% of the population is women. But we only have a 30% representation of women within the cooperative movement. What we are trying to say is that there is a huge opportunity there, and we are trying as an organization to be able to extend it and to make it appealing, to the owners or the people who have been holding the movement for a long time and telling them, hey, you do not have to vacate your positions, but you can create an opportunity for others to be able to join. If we really firmly believe in the movement the way we do, there's an opportunity for others to join and make a meaningful livelihood. And therefore, I am a firm believer that what we need is really opportunities to be able to showcase the very best aspects of ourselves.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Pamela, for that concise breakdown. And I do agree with you, opportunities need to be revealed. And there's that aspect about people being very self-aware in order to know where to hunt for those opportunities. I also believe that the sense of curiosity and open-mindedness is quite key. Kiresh, I want to segue and use what Pamela has built upon to ask a question around how you mentor young people, because it's a passion of yours. And I want you to share a memorable story of a young entrepreneur that had a unique perspective that led to an innovative solution, and how you guided them through this journey.
Thank you so much, Edwin. when it comes to, first of all, just to give a little background of myself, and I always tell people, given the mic, everyone has a story to tell. I was brought up in Garissa. My mom was Mama Mboga, and at the time, there were no technologies, nothing, but whatever she was doing in terms of how she was managing her time, ensuring we're in school, and something like I have come to appreciate now that every time we close school, we will go back home, help my grandmother in herding the cattle and all that. So at a young age is when I realized it doesn't matter how big or small entrepreneurship is. If you put your mind into something, then you can get the best out of it at that specific time. Now, as I have transitioned and I have grown and I found myself in the career of HR, I was lucky to have worked with international NGOs as my first start in my career when I became a HR officer. And that is when I have gone into mentorship. And Edwin, I have worked for organizations and I worked in countries whereby I supported and I was part of a team which transformed guards to become now successful surgeons running their own private clinics in Somalia, Yemen, South Sudan. And my mentorship, I may not have had the skills, but at the time I have listened and I made sure we curated a program that supports their dreams. Because at the time, like for example, when I worked in one of the war-torn countries, we may not have experts accessing that specific country all the time. But I could see people who finished high school and just when they were about to join and start their college or universities, the war broke. And they have the skill, they have the passion. And one incident that I've witnessed, sometimes someone is shot and they will try and do the traditional healing. And I asked them why they will do that. So they told me, Kuresha, we have three options. Watch this person bleed to death, or do the traditional healing of like literally doing a surgery using traditional method as the person withers in a lot of pain and save their life, or they die in our hands while trying. So now, when someone already
Sorry, Kiresha, are you there?
I,
Okay,
sorry,
you're back.
sorry,
You're back. Please continue.
yes, I am. So now what I'm trying to say is that in my career as I was starting off, I always had because of how I was brought up, I always made sure I created opportunities for those who I work with, even though the setup at the time, people always misunderstand entrepreneurship. It's all about uh, creating jobs for myself or becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner, all that. It can actually, entrepreneurship can even exist in government. Entrepreneurship can even exist within employment setup. So as I walked the journey and now I transitioned to become the executive director of the Institute of Human Resource Management, once again, I have met HR professionals who say, I know how to develop policies, I can do recruitment and all that, and I don't have the resources. And when you're coaching and when you're mentoring is different. The mentoring now, you walk the journey with them and you tell them what to do. This is what you need to do. This is where you need to start off. And I have been privileged enough. I may not have enough terms like you in your passport, but at least 8 countries. And I have seen one of the projects you sometimes you find yourself is someone reaching out from Tanzania, Uganda, that they have something to offer. How can you support us through the institute? And I have always made myself available, access my network. I'm sure that is where you'll find your clientele. And I will also tell them what is it that they need to succeed in that specific story. Now, if I narrow it down from now in my international experience and now at the HR, I have worked with right now successful entrepreneurs within the HR field who own their own HR firms who are running, because COVID has made everyone, like, let me say, it has equalized all of us, that we've realized there were opportunities we thought it's never possible that it's possible. I know someone who runs a farm in Turkana and has clientele here in Nairobi. Those are things which were unheard of. And now it's possible because of technology. And now, there's so many, but I will always tell them, look, just see what is the data you're processing. It's not that expensive. Sometimes you can go to cohorts. It cost you 1,000, but look at the ripple effect. What is the return you're getting? And I have made it, how the unemployment rate, it's not just something unique to Kenya. It's global and it's an African problem. Now, when we have the free trade area like AFTA, which is one of the biggest in global, so you see, you try and educate. I tell even the HR professionals, don't limit yourself. If it's Ghana that you have to go and create that opportunity, please feel free. If it's crossing to just here Uganda and coming back in the evening, please feel free. All you need to do is, do you have your idea? Have you put your mind into it? Have you drawn it? And unless you reach a point where by now you need to find people who want to invest in it or funders, I always encourage and I tell people, start small, yeah? It starts small. And start small means in that space you are in right now, make the impact. And believe me, when you look back later, both as a mentor myself and even for those who I have mentored into business, they come back and say, can I buy you lunch? And most of them, especially within the HR fraternity, I've met them just 3 years and they're very successful, very successful. So that is who I am and that is what I encourage. And my call to everyone is, we may not all be employed, but what is it that we can do to create that employment space for ourselves? What is it, that idea that I'm sitting with, that I can come with Kuresha and say, Kuresha, I have this idea. Can you introduce me to so and so? And I want to just target 20 people, then the next day. And some of them right now, they don't even have I have to book to see them. And that is where my pleasure is. And it's not just about them, they have created opportunities for others. Because once you are a successful SME owner, then you get to employ others, whether it's one person, two person, and then look at the whole supply chain. People always look at that one person who has created that opportunity. But remember, you're going to rent, you will have to get a service provider in terms of whether internet, you're on the road, you will buy fuel from somewhere, you will be able to put food on the table. So it's a whole supply chain that we are creating. And that is what I try to make people see all the time. We should not just be focused on what is the problem. And remember, when we know there is a problem, we already know the solution. So let us be the solution providers. Let us make sure that everybody can see and have access to these opportunities. Let's continue volunteering. And this is a very good platform. So Edwin, I will say from where I sit as a HR professional who have invested in her skills, I may not be an entrepreneur myself, but I have that mindset and I am always ready to guide. Thank you.
That's a very good response. I'd like to add on to that, Kiresha, because when I look at the number of certifications you got, one of them is you are certified emotional intelligence practitioner. And we all know that a lot of us saying we are self-aware, but very few people. In fact, statistics say more than 90%, 95% of people are not self-aware. So my question comes back to you in this, is the role of emotional intelligence in bringing the diversity and collaboration that we require in Africa startup ecosystems. Croatia.
Thank you so much, Edwin. And as you have rightly put, I tell people it doesn't matter what you're doing right now, but please invest in building your capacity around emotional intelligence. And that is very crucial when it comes to even within the Africa startups ecosystem, yeah? it actually helps you understand and appreciate different perspectives. Remember, when you want to venture into business, you become a leader, okay? And when you become a leader, you need to be emotionally intelligent to not only lead your business, whether it's just you or you're going to work within a team. It helps you, first of all, recognize your strengths, become self-aware of your own emotions and those of others. It also helps you lead with empathy. Because now you try to understand and now you become empathetic leader and you try and appreciate everybody's contribution, which actually helps in what now the major topic is fostering that inclusive environment whereby collaboration thrives. Because it's one thing having the idea, it's another thing to have a team that can deliver for yourself. Okay. So when I did journals, actually, journals is one of the emotional intelligence. I think in all that I've come across, that it was so inclusive that you not only understand your emotion, but it also one of the components it has is emotional reason. Emotional reason simply means is even as you make the decisions, you try to also accommodate the contributions of the others. That is just one thing. And then it also helps you to lead with the performance aspect of it, because you're not only in control of your own emotions, but also for those of others. When you're starting up a business, you need to negotiate. Let's say if you want to get a funding or even sell the product. And if you're not in control of your emotions, then you'll not be able to manage. So emotional intelligence is also key on how you manage conflict and create that psychological safety space within your team and even as you share your ideas, because regardless of the background of everyone you're working with, emotional intelligence, especially leading, let me just use the word leading with emotional intelligence is very key. Now, I mean, most of the time we hear, it was one of those moments. So if you're not in control and realize it's one of those moments, let me hold back and think, then you're going to ruin the relationship. I always tell people before you start apologizing for something, think through it. Okay? Sometimes we do things out of anger and all that. But if you take a course, whether you're going to invest in that, leading with emotional intelligence, or just right now the internet technology has made everyone equal. There's a lot of information. If you're starting up, please look for information. But like I have actually achieved this certification less than 3 months ago. And I told myself before I went for my master's or any other certification, I wish I had done this because it has really expanded how I think. It has completely changed my perspective. It has improved my relationship. It has even improved and how I look at things and bring them to perspective to help the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'd like to, now that you've spoken about us as individuals, as human beings, as people who have great purpose and goals and desires to achieve something in startups, I'd like to segue back to Joseph and look at enterprise development, the systems, the structures that are required. And one question that I'd like to pose to you is, what is that unconventional and surprising approach that you've seen where people have integrated technology and the traditional business models we have in Africa? Over to you, Joseph.
Thank you again. When I look at the entrepreneurial ecosystem and the way businesses operate, one thing that really hits my mind and I consider when I am relating business, when I'm looking at solution for business, is the business model. And this is how a business creates and delivers value, and of course ensures it's sustained, sustainability. So when I relate that with technology, I look at the role of technology in a business model innovation and how technology brings greater value to the business and how the business takes greater value And you can look at greater value in terms of the economic and also the social impact that that business takes out. Talk of the revenues, beautiful, great. But again, what is the social value out there? Does it create more jobs, whether at home or with their customers or with the people that the business is selling to or related to? Economic and social benefits. When I look at technology right now and compare it with Mr. Wandonyo used to have the most popular business in our shopping center. He used to drive a pickup, park it outside business, and he starts to sell. Most of the time, you could not see Mr. Wandonyo because the face of the business has a lot of items, merchandise hanging at the front. So you could only hear his voice and the moment that he's handing a product to you or when you are handing the money. But when I compare that with the businesses today, yes, I might not see who I am buying this phone from, but I can look to buy this phone from the US, from China, from Hong Kong, wherever. I look at digital marketing and digital commerce as very, very transformative deployment of technology in business model that has brought great value. I have a friend who buys commodities from women in Turkana. These are hard-woven, hard-crafted baskets that are getting a market in the US. The business is based right here in Africa, but the value chain extends all the way to Kaku in Turkana. What kind of other transformation we look at and the impact that they bring other than that place of digital marketing and the promotion of e-commerce, elevating it to a level that can circulate over the globe and bring impact, bring greater profit, bring greater economic development, and families are getting incomes. The other area that I can probably say that has been very, very transformative and very beneficial for businesses is digital finance and fintechs. Right now, I can be able to access a loan. Maybe I am getting some supplies from downtown Nairobi to supply to somewhere Western Kenya. And if I have shortage of financing, I can just use my phone to access some funding that will help me bridge that gap and make myself up. The fintechs are assisting the businesses to access capital in a very efficient manner and enable businesses to work well. But of course, they have the darker side of them. That is the moral hazard issue that we look at. The fact that I can borrow a loan, not for a very, very good purpose that is connected to business and one that brings value to my business and to the value to the business that I may look at. So those two areas, digital marketing and e-commerce, and then digital finance and fintech, that have been brought in as gains for businesses. And these are the models probably our startups must look at, factor in. My market is not just outside here, the globe is where to look at. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Vivian, do you have any specific questions that can build up?
Absolutely, Edwin. And I would like to really stress on how impressed I am by the quality of this panel and how complementary we have the approaches to inclusive entrepreneurship. We have Joseph coming from the enterprise development
We're going for picnic, happy picnic. I don't know what's going to go on a happy hour. Yeah.
Okay, so
serious.
I actually thought for a moment that one of the panelists was addressing us and offering
Did you see
everybody.
Great
Can
wait
you
for
mute yourself if
he
you
did
are
a
not
degree for
speaking?
laughing.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, so Joseph from the enterprise development perspective, Pamela on the mentoring evaluation side, and the workers cooperative, and Croatia from the HR perspective. I see that all of these perspectives really complement one another particularly well. And I would like now to delve deeper into how each of our panelists in their own scope drive inclusivity. Before I do that, though, I would like to invite all of our audience to please post your questions on the chat. And I also see that there was a prompt to introduce yourselves. We're here to network. This is the objective of ASSEP. So in one sentence, just let us know who you are, what you do. You never know, your next partner or client might be there in the same audience. So to delve a little bit deeper into what was shared before, Pamela, you've said something that really struck me, which is support means different things to different people. I would love you to tell us a little bit more about how the cooperative movement is changing the narrative. What mechanisms do you put in place to attract the youth that you are really trying to bring into the system?
Thank you so much, Vivian. And I'll start by, again, going back to what I said. When we began working within the cooperative movement, we realized how strong the movement really was. And I mentioned, some quick facts. One of them is that, the cooperative movement in Kenya has a membership of over 14 million Kenyans. As a movement, we have an estimated asset worth of over 1.5 trillion. And what has been mobilized as savings by these members is around 1 trillion. And actually, these are statistics from 2021, the State Department for Cooperatives in the country. And the amount of money that has been advanced in terms of loans and advances is in excess of 980 billion. So we began there. And then we looked at a movement that, regardless of how strong it was really leaving out a very important section of the population within this country. So what we are doing as global communities right now is we started by, asking questions. What can we do to actually get our young people more engaged, number one? Number two, get our women more involved in the productive aspect of the cooperative movement. Because we all know, especially when you look at the producer cooperatives, the people who work in the farms are actually the women and children, right? I mean, having grown up in a family that had a breast cooperative at that age, we were the people who worked. Obviously, our mother was in charge of that and the children and all that. But the membership number belongs to the fathers, and that means they are in charge and the control of the resources or the amount of money that is coming from the production. And therefore, we wanted to find an opportunity where everyone is able to participate in the entire value chain of cooperative. And the next question we were asking ourselves, so do we tell our young people to go and farm? Remember, the assets are controlled by a section of the population again, because especially when you look at the huge agricultural sector in the country, you need to have access and ownership of land, the coffee bushes, again. For you to really be a member, you have to have a number of coffee bushes to your name. And we realized that is automatically what really kept our mothers out and the young people out of the cooperative movement. And what we did is asking ourselves, so what can we do to actually bring the movement? If Moses cannot go to the mountain can come to Moses. And what we wanted to do is really to find an opportunity that will excite the young people. We are talking about a generation that is so youthful, so energetic, so dynamic. They are excited about so many things. So how can we make the cooperative movement a bit flexible and accommodative, so that the young people do not have to change what they love doing? You can still do something you're talented in, something you're so excited about, and still earn a living out of it. And therefore, out of that, we looked at some of the models that are doing very well within advanced economies, like in the US and other countries. And what we came to realize is that there's a worker cooperative business model. As the name suggests, the worker cooperative business model is a business model within the cooperative model that just brings people in with their work, their labor, their skills. Remember, when you look at the cooperative itself, by nature, for instance, when you look at the finance cooperatives that are very popular in our country right now, the SACCOs as we know them, you bring in your savings, and then you're able to get loans, you're able to get dividends and all that. Yet we are dealing with a population here that is a bit struggling with money or financing and capital and all that. So when you tell them to join a SACCOs, where exactly are they supposed to be getting money for them to really save regularly? Again, when you look at the producer cooperatives, you need to bring in your produce, the cooperative trades using that produce, and you're able to get your money in return. How the worker cooperative model works, you bring in your energy, you bring in your work, you put in your labor, you put in your excitement. And then as a cooperative together, you're able to share risks, you're able to get work, and therefore you pay the people who are the owners and the members of that cooperative. So that model is so flexible that regardless of what our mothers were doing, they did not have to own coffee bushes anymore. They have an opportunity to come with their skills, their labor. Of course, within the cooperative movement or sector, you need to have a common bond. So what we are asking them, what it is you're working on, can you come together as a group? And again, remember when you talk about the young people in our country right now, there's so many of them who may not be able to get like the certificate of good conduct because they have been involved in some funny things. But do we deny them an opportunity to really reform and join the regulated sectors where they can earn a decent livelihood? And we have very good examples within the cooperative that we are supporting right now. So what we realize is that the model allowed for flexibility. Right now, we have cooperatives that are in, the gig economy, like the theater, the drama. They're just acting, they're having fun, but also it is a cooperative and they're earning a living out of it. We have a group of young people that were just collecting garbage, reforming from a life of, crime and all that. So what we are saying is that the model is so flexible, and the beauty of it is that it is not just restricted to the informal sector. Even the white collar, jobs like the nurses and doctors, especially in the advanced economies, them that have embraced the movement the model have actually been able to come together and form cooperatives and earn decent livelihoods out of that. And again, if time allows, I'll be happy to share some of these examples. And we have found that this model is slowly allowing the young people to join without having to abandon what they were doing previously, allowing our mothers and our girls and our daughters and our sisters and brothers to actually join the movement without necessarily looking at, the traditional models that, left them out, by default, because they did not have the requirement or whatever was required for them to join the cooperative movement. So in that way, we have been able to see the inclusivity, the groups that were initially marginalized and left out. Right now, they are finding their own footing, and we are telling people, the veterans or the people who have been part of the movement for many years, you do not have to leave, but you can be flexible and mentor the new ones who are joining the movement. Vivian, back to you.
This is spot on, Pamela. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this comprehensive answer. I absolutely love the way you brought the mountain of the cooperative to young people that really needed it. And I would now like to challenge the audience that we have now on the call, especially the youth that we might have there that are not part of any cooperative. Pamela's organization has brought a human-centered approach, has really changed the model to make it adaptable for young people, for workers. What skills do you have? What energy do you have to bring and to benefit from the cooperative? Let's hear it on the chat. If you'd like to hear more, we'll have the time for 1 or 2 questions afterwards to ask Pamela, or you can connect with her in order to ensure that you don't miss out this opportunity. Thank you, Pamela. And now moving on to Joseph. Joseph, I would love to hear a little bit more about these solar-powered mechanisms. Now, in the space of energy, Solar has been a game changer to bring access to energy for communities that need it the most. These marginalized communities, the rural areas that we were talking about, that may not have the same access to resources. Can you tell us a little bit more about the specific models that you have implemented for the farmers in the communities to be able to grow their business through these innovations?
Thank you very much. And you take me back home, where I come from. And really, this is where I thrive, and sometimes it can really get emotional when you see that transformation. What I would say, just straight to it, is that access to technology, and being able to bundle that with access to capital, so that the farmers or the entrepreneurs there can be able to access that technology, becomes one of the models that I've seen being transformative, and one that I have implemented. So there's one thing, knowing about technology, which is part of capacity building, and maybe that can also qualify as a model. Capacity build, knowledge of the technology. Then number two is access to capital to help those populations, the entrepreneurs in those value chains, access that technology and to distribute that technology. And number three is how to use the technology. And if I may just narrow it down to the enterprises that are around those value chains, those models, is how to distribute and how to really reach out to communities, to families. Yes, I have the capital. I have bought these merchandise. I have them in my shop. But how do I make it happen that they will be bought by people far and wide? And that is where capacity building and strengthening of the businesses in terms of their marketing capability comes in, so that they really know how to do the distribution and do it in a viable way that will be able to make money for the business and bring the social change that we are looking at. So if I may just look at it, it's the knowledge, that is the mobilization, sensitization, the knowledge of these technologies. Number two is access to capital to acquire the technologies and the knowledge to use and distribute those technologies to the people who really require them, and those who will really bring transformation to societies that we work. Thank you.
Now, what better definition of impact could we have? Congratulations, Joseph, for this initiative. Thank you for this comprehensive answer. And back to you, Edwin.
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to realize that there is one fundamental element that we need to also respect, the elephant in the room, and that's government. And I want us to segue onto that in the role of government and policymakers. And I know each of you plays a very pertinent role. And I would want this question to actually be posed to all three of you. What do you think is the role of government and policymakers in playing, in being able to ensure that there is diversity and inclusion within the entrepreneur landscape? Let me start with Kiresha, and then we move to Pamela, and then Joseph, and then we bring it all together. Kiresha.
Thank you, Edwin. If I hear you correct, you asked the government and the role that it needs to play in this space.
Yeah, so government and policy making in terms of promoting diversity and inclusion within the entrepreneurial
Thank
space.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let me start by just say a close home. You know, in Kenya, if you look at the effort the government has done, whether it's about youth entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurship, and the latest in the Hustler Fund, the one of the biggest banks, which a part of it is a government cooperative. Yeah. So let me say, when it comes to the financial infrastructure, it is there. And then I know there's a lot of other private players who are licensed by the government. So starting with that, there is something that when it comes to inclusivity, and I always remind people using myself as an example, and I'm glad my fellow panelists also brought it to board. I tell people Kenya is not just about, there are opportunities in the urban towns, but entrepreneurship does not just happen in the urban town. You need to know what happens to the person in Takaba, that is the farthest end of this country, to Malaba, what is going on. So in those who are influencing policies, they need to drive that inclusivity. Even as you disperse those funds, you need to understand how inclusive is it in terms of that disbursement. Today, if someone was to access the data of the Women Enterprise Fund or the Youth Enterprise Fund or the Hustlers Fund, will it show a representation of the 47 counties? Will there be representation in terms of inclusivity? And someone has also mentioned before, while our mothers were those who are registered in those cooperatives and it is our fathers who will benefit. So the question I will ask again is, how are we ensuring that the funds we are disbursing, it's reaching the right people? So can you feel it from their lifestyle? So for those who are driving policy, they need to make sure those policies are as inclusive as possible. And Edwin, the government is a pace setter. All these subsections they have, whether it's about gender, whether it's about disability, a lot of money is being pumped in. But we need to see the return on investment. I always tell anyone who is in government, yes, you are into service provision, but in those offices, we need to feel the ripple effect on those whom you are serving. A very good example is the women enterprise. You need to sit back, you're getting an exchequer to come up with this policy. Are you, again, monitoring the impact those policies are having across the country? Okay? You've been given an opportunity, for example, the Ministry of Cooperatives. Are you ensuring that entrepreneurs are aware of what happens through the Africa trade, the free trade, the AFTA? I don't know how to say it together. Are you telling them we are ready now? This market is ready for you. This is what is exempted for you. This is what is really going. We have it in Kenya, and if you take it to Ghana, this is what you will get out of. Or if you take it from Kenya to South, like going round. So are you actually becoming a market connector? I doing what I see most of the time is there is a trip to Ghana. So I'm just a startup. I may not be able to fund my ticket. Have you come up with policies through those government offices that every time we make a trip that is going to touch on entrepreneurs, again, from Mandera to Malaba, there will be a link they can access and follow the whole event and have information available to them. Now that is inclusivity. Not only those who can afford to take a plane. There's some people who don't even have passports, that they want to take advantage of those trades. But when you see them, the return on show them the return on investment, when you show them the policies that will protect them, then that is key. I know it's an environment that is overregulated as a country, but sometimes it's healthy. You know, when compliance is key. Compliance is key in the sense that even as you generate that wealth, it needs to be felt within the economy. You know, right now, if you look at, very few people are billionaires. And for those who are doing a lot, their monies are either going to, because they have not been compliant, now they have to pay those hefty. So there is a lot that needs to be done. And it all zeroes down to infrastructure. whether it's the road network, whether it's access to technology, whether it's access to those financial resources. The government needs to be felt everywhere. And we need to start telling our own stories. You know, there's so many of us doing the same thing in different ways. It's time to start collaborating. It's time to promote inclusivity, whether it's about gender, whether it's about ethnicity, whether it's about if you're able differently. So all those things needs to be factored in. We can no longer work in silos. And all the institutions that have mentioned doing something for the entrepreneurs, it's time for them to come together and say, if I'm going to focus this part of the country, someone else needs to take this part. If they have gone somewhere and you know that if this region will have contributed this much to the economy, and the barrier for them not contributing is ABCD. So that is where those are like we need to be very deliberate in terms of our policy. So sometimes poverty can just be a mindset. If we have systems that work, if we have policies that can be implemented, if we have clarity in terms of the communication on what needs to happen, and even let's also not assume that every entrepreneur speaks English or Swahili. That's also another assumption we make. But now we have FM radios that speak on all the mother tongues. So how are you disseminating the policies you got and the opportunities you have for everyone to bring everyone to the table? Even as we embark to the journey to Africa, what are we doing within the country? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'd like to ask Pamela to share a thought or two on that, and the same for Joseph, as we bring this to a close and do a call to action. Maybe on the same question, Pamela, if you can share something slightly, and then Joseph.
Sure, and it's a Kenyan thing to say everything has been said by Gresha. But yes, when we began working on implementing our cooperative development project in Kenya, cooperative is one of the functions that are fully developed in Kenya right now. Of course, with the shift to the devolved system of governance. And therefore, our mandate was to go directly to the counties. Number one of our objectives was actually to support them to come up with an enabling environment through policy and legislation at the county level. But of course, we, as much as it is a fully devolved function, we still have a whole state department for cooperatives. We even have a line ministry right now at the national level that is in charge of cooperatives and MSMEs. And therefore, what we realized is that counties were still, seated and waiting for the guidance from the national government. And therefore, what we did was, to come back to the national government and start having conversations. So yes, one of the key roles of the government is, of course, they do the regulations. They are the government is a regulator, so they are charged with coming up with policies. And our contribution as an organization is to ensure that the policies and the cooperative laws are enabling. They are not a hindrance. They are enabling of the worker cooperatives and the cooperatives in general to be able to thrive. And how we did this, when we began, we realized there was no provision for the worker cooperative even to be registered. There was no provision for it, and therefore some of them were wrongly registered. So what we did is, to be able to work with the government to ensure that, number one, it was anchored in law. There is, at times we are so well-meaning and we have very brilliant ideas, but we need to ensure that they are anchored within the systems that are supposed to be supporting those particular systems. And you cannot do that as an outsider because it's really the mandate of the government. So that means there is this ecosystem, we have all these different actors, and we cannot leave out any of these important actors. So when you're beginning your work in any particular area, it is important to start asking yourself, who are the key stakeholders and what is their role? How do I engage with them? And number two, they need to see the value of what you're bringing on board. And so we began conversations at that point. And through that, right now, even the cooperative bill that is the national cooperative bill that is currently in parliament has actually called out the worker cooperative business model as one of those that can and should be registered in the country right now. And for us, that is a win, because it means all the advocacy efforts that we did are bearing fruit, because there is an anchorage at the national level. The model frameworks that we also supported the Council of Governors to develop, that were disseminated to all the 47 counties, again, they have a provision for that registration. When we meet with the cooperatives, we want to start by asking themselves. I mean, of course, we trigger the conversations. The cooperative movement is self-regulated, self-driven, and therefore, they minimize the interference from the outsiders. But you want to throw these conversations. When you're meeting as members, or when you're meeting, who is missing out on that table? And it will come from them that we actually don't see women, we don't see the young people, we don't see people with disability. And again, question to them, so what can we do? And therefore, they end up anchoring it even in their own bylaws. So again, the government biggest role is really to create enabling environment. How do they do that? Through structures, ensuring that infrastructure is in place, the right legal frameworks that are enabling and not disabling. And of course, a lot of advocacy goes into that for them to even understand, because at times we have laws that end up hindering some of these initiatives, and at times it's because people are actually not aware. So when you find a good way of engaging the government from the start, especially for us, it was easier because the government was already going through, the cooperative sector was already going through reforms. So it was easier for us to get in the conversations from the start to be able to do that. And as a civil society organization, one of the things that we did was to ensure that when the bill was ready for public participation, we simplified it in a way that it could be understood by many people who are not, experts in law, so that they can understand these are the enabling conditions that are provided for, these are the disabling conditions that, again, are provided for. And we also told them, this is how you can, do your own submissions, you can make your voices heard. And I want to believe, as actors working within the sector, can help the government in that sense, where we are able to bridge the gap between the government and the people to whom the laws that are being made are, to serve. But of course, government becomes the person that is driving that. So, creating the right frameworks in mind, and also now working with other stakeholders to ensure that is happening. So, inclusive policies.
Thank you very much. In many
Yes.
ways, not too many people know how much work is required to make it happen. So over to Joseph also to also share his perspective, and then we will do a call to action from all of you.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And I would say that it gets to surprise me most of the time, because when most governments are coming on board, they're campaigning, they bring in a lot of ideas, and they really show us that they really understand the problems of startups, of young businesses, and even of marginalized communities, societies. You will find that in their manifestos. But the converse happens when it comes to action. They pretend not to know. Not to say that the governments are not doing much in Africa and in Kenya. They are doing something, but that cannot be compared with the zeal and the knowledge that they pretend to have when they're coming to power. And I want to look at it from the negative side of it, and not that I like being negative, but this brings it out. And it is in the context of enabling businesses. One is access to information, just like my fellow panelists have shared. I look at the amount of money that is spent by the county government in Kenya and the national government, and I have been able to see this trend in most of the African countries, a lot of money is spent for exposure tours, for information, seeking information out there, seeking opportunities in the US, in UK, in Asia. But where does this information go? Does it just remain at the airport once the guy steps back into the country? And I want to take an example of a delegation. They went to learn from the Small Business Administration of the United States, which has been very, very successful in supporting startups and supporting small businesses. They went to learn, but I can tell you, there is nothing that has been attempted to be done here in. This is not an attack, but really bad. What do we do with the information we go seek out there? We go to Colombia, we go to China, we go to Malaysia, but how do we put it into action? Do we bring that information back here and action on the same, enabling businesses and enabling startups? Number two is on the issue of stifling startups, stifling small businesses, the growth, all this, even starting up all the growth, taxation, corruption. And I think this is well encapsulated in an article by Sonny Bidra. He wrote last Sunday, but one. He's a writer in the center. And he says, in a recent, the spirit of entrepreneurship often gets snuffed out by heavy hand of government. Most insidious and external peril being rapacious taxation, fees, and corruption, because people will come to you asking you for some money so that you can get a certain license. This sort of brings in the government as stifling or fighting enterprise. So how can the government, through the taxation, incentivize instead of kill enterprises? How can we reduce corruption that goes towards stifling enterprise? How can we promote the ecosystem? How can we promote collaboration? Finally, it's on policy, deliberate policy handling, and even in the context of the cooperation of various nations. We have the Afro-Continental Free Trade Area. How are we handling inclusivity inside there? Matters of travel. How easy is it for me to travel to seek opportunities in Sudan as a startup or somebody interested in opportunities there? The issue of taxation comes in. The East African customs. How inclusive is it? Or it is just on the top there? I think there's more to do for government in terms of really deepening and making it happen, rather than just having it as policy papers for government, not for the enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. And thank you to all our panelists for sharing your perspective on government policies in order to drive inclusivity from their perspective as well. As a final call to action, here's what I would like us to do. Each of our panelists, one way or the other, are driving inclusivity, but it is not a one-way road. Now, I am very sure that, like Kuresha mentioned, we would also want to suggest, recommend actions to all our audience here online, what they could do in order to help you support them. So very quickly, in a few sentences only, I would like to go around the table and ask Pamela, what would you recommend to our audience? So what would you ask them, suggest in terms of action to take right now in order to support your cause to drive inclusivity for African startups? It's the 1 minute.
The audience or the panelists?
The audience. The audience. How would you like, what actions should entrepreneurs take that they might not know of in order to help you help them?
Okay. Number one, connect, you know. Number two is get information. One of the things that we realized was that young people are not in cooperative movement because they don't really understand it. To them, it is, something for the old people. ask, get information, get interested. Global Communities does not start cooperatives, but we support organizations or groups that have come together and they already have a common board, they have a business going. So mine would be get engaged based on everything that I've shared today, and my colleague was here one of the days. And having understood our business model and what we are supporting, my recommendation would be reach out, get interested. When we did a social systems mapping exercise in a couple of counties in Kenya, and Nairobi was one of them, we realized that many people go to the government to ask for information, and they also go to the organizations or the NGOs and the civil society organizations to be able to get help. And mine is ask. There are so many opportunities out there. There are so many organizations working out there. But I want to believe most of that information is not always, the right information is not always in the hands of the people that need it. And therefore, my recommendation will be, you will not know what people are doing and how they can support you unless you actually go out there. We have our website, Global Communities, and what it is that we do. We are passionate about inclusivity, especially helping in solving the youth unemployment through the worker cooperative business model. There's a huge opportunity there, but we may not be able to do, to reach out to everyone on our own. But people can also reach out. If you're doing something that looks and appears as workers together, there's an opportunity for you to step out there. And all of us really have a role to play. I mean, together, we believe in collaboration. Our approach as a project is we collaborate, we learn, and we adapt along the way. And therefore, we are also inviting, other sector actors to be able to collaborate, to equip and to empower our young people so that the wrong labels, that are put on the young people, we can channel that energy elsewhere and help them make a livelihood out of it. So ask information, connect, and you'll be able to get something out of it.
Thank you, Pamela. Connect, connect, connect. I can see that some networking and connections have been going on in the chat. Some opportunities are being shared. Don't miss out. Reach out on the chats. Yeah, here we go. I can see that, Pamela, you're already being connected with. Kindly share the contacts for Global Communities on the chat so that people can reach out further and ask the questions that they need.
Perfect.
Kuresha, what is your call to action to our audience online in less than 1 minute in order to help you help them? Do we have Kuresha on the call? Maybe we can ask Joseph while the connection restores with Kuresha. Joseph, what's your call to action to our audience online?
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Adrian and Vivian, which has been great. What I could say be my call to action. One, let's call this efforts together. With one voice, I think a platform like SME Founders Association offers a great opportunity for businesses to come together and address issues that really affect other businesses. And that is where opportunities also come. And that is where organizations, even like Mind Foundation, comes in, where we can be able to partner with you and bring in more opportunities. Number two is that let us not give up. Let us not give up hope. There are difficult times, they will come and go, but that affirms the qualities of an entrepreneur. Brave, courageous, very, very strong, a pillar towards success. And finally, let's make this sort of music, like it has been said, collaboration. Let us look for that harmony, the melodious collaborations that we can have and bring together partnerships and bring opportunities. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. So kindly share your contact as well in the chat for people to reach out to you in order to request for more information. I am told that unfortunately our time is up. Kuresha, one final word. We don't have up to 30 seconds there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to the SME Founders Association for putting this through. my call to action is let's do more together. As Pamela has said, all these cooperatives, the associations are there. For those of you who are entrepreneurs, take advantage of it. And IHRM as an institute, we will work with you when it comes to the regulations around HR, and especially for the startups on how to manage your HR. Please feel free, reach out, and let's continue this conversation from Kenya to the Africa and to the world. We can do this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kuresha. And I would like to invite you as well to please share the contact on the chat for people that might want to reach you for more information. A big thanks for myself. It has been a lovely panel discussion, an enriching one. And over to you, Edwin, to wrap this up.
So thank you all for making time. I see that we still have a strong number of participants, and I'm hoping that this has been nourishing for both your mind and your spirit in terms of what you need to do. Take the call to action very seriously. This is a community that can help you move forward in whatever venture that you want to achieve. And with that, I'd like to bring this to an end, the panel discussion, and take it back to the convener, Josephine. Back to you.
Oh, wow. All right. Now then, sometimes you look at the time and it is 12:15. When you look at it again, it is 1:30. That's how interesting the conversation has been so far. Thank you so much, Edwin and Vivian, for just guiding us through this panel discussion. Thank you to our panelists, Pamela, Joseph, and Kuresha. We have had quite a bit of information. And for me, 3 things stand out. And there are 3 keywords. 1, opportunities, access, and connections. You can put it as connections, opportunities, and access, so that you just know what you need to do to get in the game and to ensure that you're pushing forward everything that you need to do as a business, as a startup, and especially in Africa. Considering the gap that we started off with, the 40% of global youth will be African and 0.02%. Oh my goodness, that is just something. So we are here for the last but not least speaker, and that is Olga Oyer. If somebody could spotlight Olga so that I can see her even as I introduce her. Olga, do you have your video on so that we can spotlight you? Yes, awesome. Good, wonderful to see you and welcome. All right, Olga is exceptional at assessing and crafting solutions to address public policy gaps that affect millions of people. You've heard about the gap that we have between the cooperatives and the people who need cooperatives. She's very good at that. She uniquely and effectively leads teams to combine critical thinking, stakeholder engagement, policy economy analysis, policy advocacy, and communications to deliver results across the public-private divide, drawing from over 10 years of experience to just be able to do this. So when we tell you she is exceptional at it, it's not a lie, it's proven. In her current role, she works with global communities. She has successfully and skillfully led the cooperatives policy and legislative strategy for the USAID CLEAR program, which is now being implemented in 28 of Kenya's 47 counties. I'm hoping she will share with us the counties that they have covered so that the people in this call who are not in the counties who are in the counties that have not been covered know what to do. She has been instrumental in streamlining global communities' objectives and enhancing its productivity for top-notch results, bringing to the fore her remarkable leadership qualities and relatability. She is a master's graduate in public policy management from the prestigious Strathmore University Business School. So she's not here to play. There is no doubt that she brings great knowledge and experience to whichever sector she works in, and carries with her valuable insights and networks sought after by public policy practitioners and organization interested in reforms and results. For Olga, family is important, and she unwinds with a blend of family, good food, and great music. Let me ask this, am I the only one, or does food always come up in these conversations we are having? Every time somebody has something to do with food. So if you want Olga to relax as you give her your pitch, take her to a good restaurant. And then call Velona also and take her to a good restaurant. So the two of them can be discussing food as you give them your pitch, and lo and behold, they will be like, yes, 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 we can do that. Now, that one I've given you people for free. I won't even charge you for that tip. All right. So now, let us put our hands together and welcome Olga Oyer. And she speaks to us about, ecosystem builders, and more specifically about cooperatives and their advantages. Welcome, Olga, over to you.
Thank you very much, Josephine, for that, and all the speakers who've gone before me. I was just taking notes and just saying, okay, so everything that I'm going to say has been covered, but it was well covered and a lot of flavor has been brought to it. Let me start by just sharing my screen. I'd like to just talk through a few slides. Just so that we have something to look at as I'm sharing what I prepared for today. Josephine, please let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see it? Yeah, there. Good, good enough.
Awesome. All right. So let me just start off. I've been introduced already and I won't go into that, but as global communities and specifically the USAID funded Clear Plus project, we are so excited and delighted to be part of this. To be part of this year's the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builders Summit and Awards. Why? Because we believe in ecosystem development and development of market systems for sustainability. And so thank you very much for inviting us here. I'm so honored and privileged to be working also with Pamela, who was in the panel discussion that just ended, and also Mike Kipngeno, who presented on the worker cooperative model earlier on in the summit series. Let's start off by reflecting. Arthur Ashe, and this is related to what Kuresha mentioned about doing what you can in the space you are, and it aligns with what Arthur Ashe said. And he said, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And I feel this resonates a lot with entrepreneurs and those working within the startup ecosystem, because you may assume that it's other people to act or to do something, but where you are, there's something you can do to transform the ecosystem. So start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Briefly about Global Communities. Global Communities is an international NGO. We have been in existence for over 60 years. Over 60 years, we work in over 30 countries across the divide of sustainable development, humanitarian assistance, financial inclusion, and in some contexts, we work in the area of peace. So we have been around, we work in 5 continents and doing different things. In Kenya, we've been here since 2005, formerly known as the Cooperative Housing Foundation, because we have our roots within the cooperative housing space. But over time, and given the interventions that we were doing in different communities, our name transformed to Global Communities. And really, just as the name says, we work closely with communities and go in with bearing the respect and dignity that communities know where the shoe hurts, they know where the pain points are, and they know what the possible solutions will be to the problems that exist, but just need maybe global perspectives or a catalyst to move towards advancing equity and strong futures, and as well as saving lives. So in Kenya, currently we have 3 portfolios. USAID Clear, literally closed last week. We're wrapping it up. But Clear Plus, USAID Clear Plus is a follow-on program from Clear. And we'll be reflecting shortly about what that, how that ties in with everything, just building on what Mike and Pamela had already shared without repeating what they said. The other program that we have is AfriScout, and AfriScout is technology-based. It's an app that's used by communities in the arid and semi-arid areas to provide alerts on security issues or weather patterns and where there is grazing land, so that even as the nomadic communities move, their movement is strategic and towards actual grazing land for their livestock. So the USAID Clear program, just when you mentioned 28 counties, we trained 28 counties and 264 officers graduated in the public policy making process. And this is, our focus was on the cooperative, county cooperative departments. We have also engaged 40 counties in the public policy making space about legislative process, legislative reforms, inclusivity for youth, women, persons with disability within the cooperative space. And then we managed to support, more than, we supported 21 counties to draft their legislation. I don't have the list of counties now, but I'm happy to share that with you, Josephine, later, should you need the counties list. But in part of what we do in development, we don't want to create a crutch for people. And so part of in our interventions, there's an element of cost share. And working with counties and the worker cooperatives that we've been able to work with, alongside a few producer and housing cooperatives, we were able to mobilize cost share of over $442,000 during the period of the 5 years of programming. The USAID, I just want to reflect a little bit, because we are funded by USAID, and it's important to know, as Pamela said, access to information is very important. And so the USAID has, in Washington, has a program called the Cooperative Development Program, which is CDP. And the Cooperative Development Program is implemented globally by the 10 organizations that you see on the screen. And out of the 10, and then the center organization is the US Overseas Cooperative Development Council, that kind of brings us together, is charged with lobbying Congress for more funding for cooperative development work. In Kenya, we have these 6 partners who are implementing the Cooperative Development Program. I take the moment to share this because while we are under the same umbrella program, each of these implementing partners has specific activities that they implement. Genex is working within the dairy sector to increase productivity, and using genetics also genetic methods to improve productivity of dairy cattle. Global communities, I've mentioned. Health partners are increasing access to the social health insurance fund within the cooperative movement. NCBA CLUSA working within the policy space alongside us, and also working with dairy cooperatives in Nandi and in Meru. And the World Council of Credit Unions, WOCU, is working with SACCOs, the credit unions in Kenya, and boosting some financial technology, fintech within that space. The OCDC also does research in Kenya within the cooperative development space, and coordinate some of our activities in terms of research and learning. Don't worry, I'll make a segue into the Startup Hub, but I'm just sharing information. I think this is the last slide on what we do. So now Clear Plus, in the next, so from 2023 to 2028, we'll be implementing this program in Kenya and in Guatemala. Basically in Kenya, we're at the tail end of implementation, having been here since 2016 when we piloted, 2016 to 2018, and then did the CLEAR program. Guatemala are where Kenya was 7 years ago. And so they're taking a lot of the learning and the lessons from Kenya to spur the cooperative, worker cooperative model, and then also to work on their policy as well. So we're looking at scaling the model, engaging more youth, developing toolkits for startup worker cooperatives and supporting them, and then scaling the policy interventions that we've had. The worker cooperative model fits across all the productive sectors of the economy. One of the largest journalists worker cooperative in the US is made up of, it's a media worker cooperative, is made up of journalists who came together to form a worker cooperative. Golf caddies can form a worker cooperative. So that's when you look at sports. We have a worker cooperative in the tourism sector, the mechanical sector, domestic workers, accountants, lawyers. So it just goes across all the productive sectors. And so in this period, we'll be looking to scale that. So we say that for an ecosystem to thrive, there must be continuous collaboration, learning, and adaptation. The USAID provides a model for collaboration, learning, and adaptation. We call it CLA. Because, and it ties in with what Josephine mentioned, connections, opportunities, and access. So collaborations looks at mapping all your players within the ecosystem. You have your development partners, programs like ours, or donors like USAID. You have your government stakeholders, you have your startups, the startups themselves. You have your potential customers, you have the ecosystem builders, and then you also have the citizenry who affect pretty much your operational environment. Have you taken time to map who your stakeholders are? What are their interests? Who has the influence? Who has the power? So that you know how you're creating strategic collaborations. When it comes to learning, every day is a new day and there's innovation going on every day in every sector. How much time are you taking to learn your ecosystem and to adapt? Because when you take time to pause and reflect on what's working, what's not working, how do we change, where are the trends, then you're able to adapt with the new needs in the business environment. You're able to adapt to new regulations and the like. I'll pause here and also reflect on some of the aspects that were spoken about in terms of policy and, legislation and the like. Recently in Kenya, during the period of our finance bill, we saw our Gen Zs go out and really do a lot of advocacy, lobbying, created content in different local languages, and broke down the finance bill for non-legal people to understand what are the problems, what are the opportunities, what do we need to do. Maybe there are those who felt it was a problem. For me, I saw such a great opportunity in terms of skill, talent, knowledge, and that could be a new area that could be explored as entrepreneurs, because we have the public participation processes that are mandated for every law. Every law is required to do public participation at national and county level. And the government can't do everything. But if there are these groups or businesses that can come up to do to repackage information in simpler content. I'm sure it's something that, you know, even development partners could pick up and see how to support with time. So for an ecosystem to grow, we need to have collaboration, learning, and adaptation going on as a continuous process. The elements of an ecosystem, first of all, I see this as layers, or, you know, you could look at it as a target with different circles, or as an onion. You know, with an onion, the closer you get to the core, the more stingy it is, or the richer the flavor is, depending on how you perceive it. But looking at the environmental issues, value-driven businesses, the attitude and culture, looking within, and some of the cultures that, you know, Kuresha was talking about in terms of looking at your HR policy and your culture within as a business. That's environmental, and it's important to do. The next important level is looking at what are your business support systems? What's your connection to the market? What is the policy environment saying, and how does it affect you? And are you plugged in to bring in your voice into the advocacy for a better enabling environment for your business or within your ecosystem? And then what's also essential is now, of course, I'm biased to cooperatives, but in this phase of my life, but look at it within the space that you're in. It's essential to have the skills and capacity as a business. And the summit has taken time to build your capacity in 4 key areas. Then looking at financing and funding, that was covered as well. Who are the developers? Who are the ecosystem developers in this case? And are you tapped in? And what technical assistance do you need? And do you know who your linkages are to get that technical assistance? So in that spirit, I applaud the ecosystem learning labs that have taken you through these 4 key learning areas that you're able to deep dive into. And we appreciate being part of, you know, the beginning of the process and speaking about the worker cooperative model. So ecosystem builders, what do? They build relationships, identify resources, and navigate hurdles, you know, alongside entrepreneurs. And finally, they help entrepreneurs reach their goals to start, grow, scale their businesses with time. And so what's the benefit of this? What's the benefit, and why are we here? Why are we bothered about, you know, the ecosystem? Why are we even going into having a summit and awards? And I hope I capture McKevin's dream and aspirations through this these icons that I've put here. One is to increase collaboration. I can't overemphasize that. And 2, it shortens your time to get to market, because you're already plugged in with people. Your learning curve is shortened because you're given the information that you need. You're pointed to opportunities, and you're connected to those you need to be connected to. The next thing that ecosystem builders help with is providing more choice and flexibility. And you spoke about scaling. Look beyond your national context, look regionally, look globally, you know, think bigger, and build stronger relationships. And most importantly, it provides for better brand recognition, because you want to grow to a point, you know, nowadays, when you see the tick, what comes to your mind is Nike. Sometimes they don't even need to, you know, when you see the red envelope, Safaricom or M-Pesa comes to your mind and the like. So with time, you want your brand to be recognized and to grow. Just the way within our circles, the SME Founders Association brand has grown to be known within our space as well. So I'd like to just acknowledge all the partners that have taken time and effort to plan this over the last couple of months and to bring us to where we are today. Congratulations to all of you participants for walking this summit journey over the entire month of August. And congratulations to many congratulations to our finalists for making it this far. So with that, I'd like to just conclude by thanking you all for sharing this moment with us and for giving me an opportunity to speak. I look forward to connecting with you all at some point or another. And this picture just speaks to one of the worker cooperatives. They're in an educational entertainment or edutainment as they speak. So the photo is as dramatic as the profession that they've chosen and their youth. So thank you very much, and we look forward to the continued collaborations. Back to you, Josephine.
Wow. Thank you so much, Olga. Thank you so much. Okay. One key thing that I have taken away is you need to know your stakeholders. You need to know their interests. You need to know where their power lies so that you can make strategic collaborations. So that is what we have learned today. And I want to thank all our speakers, our panelists, everyone who has taken time to just be here. Okay, it's afternoon and we have about 30 minutes to go before we finish. I mentioned earlier the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builder Summit and Awards, an initiative spearheaded by Set Up a Startup. We heard from the founder of Set Up a Startup, Makevin Ayaba, earlier on. Then we also heard from Velona Okech, who represents our host, the SME Founders Association. We heard from our panelists, and finally, we've heard from Olga Oyer from Global Communities, who's one of our partners. We are nearly at the end of today's session. But next up is another exciting session, the unveiling of Kenya finalists of the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builders Summit and Awards, who will represent Kenya in Ghana in October from the 2nd to the 4th of October. The ASEB Awards lie at the core of ASEB, dedicated to recognizing and celebrating exceptional contributions to ecosystem building. That's what all this has been about. Just in case you are lost and wondering what is going on there, that is what all this has been about. As a key element of the summit, these awards honor the unsung heroes who have significantly advanced entrepreneurship and strengthened startup ecosystems across Africa. They highlight individuals and organizations that have shown remarkable dedication, innovation, and impact in their ecosystem building efforts. If you missed anything anyone said, the one thing that should have stuck to you is innovation. Every single person who's been speaking has been talking about innovation. So by celebrating these achievements, ASEB Awards inspire and motivate others to excel in ecosystem building, further driving the growth and success of entrepreneurship in Africa. Yes, that is what they've been doing. Makevin Ayaba, you had a big dream and it's coming to pass. Wow. So far. Now, 289 nominations were received across 18 different categories. The judges, for sure, out of 289, had a difficult time selecting the finalists, and the judges' identities were not disclosed to maintain impartiality and avoid potential conflicts of interest. So out of these 289, these Kenyan finalists ticked every box required, and then they added a bit of sugar to clinch the position of finalists. So I want to play you a video of the finalists. So let me see where that is. There it is. Share sound. Optimize for video clip. Let me hope. Oh, wait a minute. I'm here and bring this to the end. Give me a minute. Welcome you to the army. Okay. So somebody let me know if you can see my screen. I can't hear audio. Is anyone speaking?
It's okay, we can see your screen. You cannot play.
Awesome.
Yes, we
Okay.
can. We welcome you to the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builders Kenya Finalist Summit of 2024. The nominee for the Investor Readiness and Matching Initiative of the Year is iHub. The nominee for the Social Entrepreneurship Support Initiative of the Year is the African Management Institute. The nominee for the Corporate Startup Collaboration Champion of the Year is Safaricom. The nominee for the Ecosystem Fund of the Year is Novasta Ventures, Kenya. The nominee for the Angel Investor of the Year award is Sewu Steve Tawia of Jazarif Ventures. The nominee for the Diversity and Inclusion Initiative of the Year is Standard Chartered Women in Technology Incubator. The nominee for the Ecosystem Development Partner of the Year is Innovative UK KTN Global Alliance. The nominee for Technology Transfer and Commercialization Champion of the Year is iHub. The nominee for the Entrepreneur Support Organization of the Year is YGAP Kenya. The nominee for the Accelerator of the Year is Pangea Accelerator. The nominee for the Incubator of the Year is Vilgrow Africa. The nominee for the Startup Mentor of the Year is Eric Nyamwaro of STEM Impact Center. The nominee for the Startup Research and Development Initiative of the Year is IBM Research. The nominee for the Woman in STEM of the Year is Dr. Shiko Gitao of Kala. The nominee for the Ecosystem Media and Content Creator of the Year is WeTracker. The nominee for the Co-working Space of the Year is iHub. The nominee for the Entrepreneurship Education Champion of the Year is Directed Development. Lastly, the nominee for the Startup Service Provider Champion of the Year is Lawyers Hub. Congratulations to the Kenyan finalists. All the best as you represent our nation at the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builders Summit and Awards in Ghana. Let's continue to make Kenya proud.
I did not see any emojis. I did not see any reactions. I wondered what was going on. So let me put on my emojis and my reactions just because it seems people are not as excited as I am that 18 people have got these awards from Kenya. We have 18 categories. So we are not going there with 3 or 2 or 1, although even 1 would have been good, but hey, 18 is amazing. 18 is amazing. Now then, this is what is going to happen the next few weeks up until the award ceremony in October. Yes, in October, and it starts October 2nd to October 4th. There's going to be a link that will be shared on social media that you will need to go in and vote for the person you want to win. Just in case you didn't understand, we are going to Ghana. And in Ghana, there'll be other finalists from other countries who are going to be vying to be the winners in those categories. So let's look at Africa, and let's just say that all 54 countries send somebody. So that means there'll be 54 people in each category. Now, Kenya is only one category, one person per category. If you want the Kenyan to win, you'd better tell all your friends. We are 44 million Kenyans. So if each Kenyan goes in and votes twice, I think it will be twice or once. Even if they vote once, that is 44 million votes for one person to bring back that crown home. Am I making sense? If I am not, let me repeat. 44 million Kenyans, one person votes, and we get that person here. If you have people in the diaspora, tell them, this is a Kenyan thing. Come all of you. And right now we are saying, in the slang of the Gen Zs, anguka nayo. Let us anguka with all of this so that we bring it back home. In the next few days, within a day or two, we should be able to share a link on social media. The best place to get this link would be in the SFA groups. So check the SFA groups. You'll be able to get that link to be able to just vote for the person you want to win. If you're Ghanaians and you're in Kenya, I expect you to vote for Kenyan. You hear? If you're Ghanaians and you're in Kenya, I expect you to vote for a Kenyan because you're here. All right. And now with that said, we are about to bring this thing to a close because we have just had such a good time. If you guys did not have your coffee, I am sorry for you. I've just been drinking coffee. So these 5 weeks, we have learned, we have shared, and we have gained a lot from our panelists and speakers. I've been looking at the chat and I have not seen any questions as yet that
Hi,
have
how are
not been
you?
answered.
I'm
Yes.
very well, thank you. Nashukuru. Yes. It is it is an award ceremony that is ending.
Okay, thank you for meeting yourself. I have not seen any questions in the chat that need to be answered. So I hope that you, my dear audience, have learned something significant that hopefully will move you that step closer to where you want to go. And if you have no idea how to do that, go look for SME Founders Association on social media and join their team. Look for Clear and ask them the questions you need to ask. Hit up Qureshi, ask her questions. Kevin Ayaba is over here. Ask him questions. Ask these people questions. They have come to your space and this is a network that you should make use of. So I want to leave you with 2 quotes. One from Jane Goodall that says, "What you do makes a difference." And you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. And the other is from Vitaly Gordon that says, you don't need to know how the technology of a microwave works to use it. It's simply a tool. And so, participants, remember, you do not need to know how something works to make use of it. Just go in there and start and you do things and it will work as you go along. If you do not know and you really need to know, look for somebody who can explain it to you and make use of it. We were told here that cooperatives have trillions of shillings and yet very few Kenyans make use of cooperatives because they do not believe that cooperatives work. They're the ones who want to become technicians to understand the microwave so that they can make use of a cooperative. We don't want that. So my dear participants, remember to learn, to elevate, to evolve in order to grow our businesses in Africa and to grow businesses that will outlive our dreams. Thank you so, so much for taking time. We are 10 minutes into our time, but I so appreciate you for staying here up until the end. Thank you to our panelists, to our speakers, and to our partners. It has been such a pleasure and so much fun being the convener of these ASEB Learning Labs these past 5 weeks. And with that said, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and I hope to see you in Ghana in October. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Madam Convener. That was amazing. Thank you to all our participants. Thank you to Kevin. Kevin, thank you for joining us this today. All the finalists, if they're in the house, we thank you. We congratulate you. We are going to be getting in touch with you. All participants, this is SME Founders Association, where we connect entrepreneurs and professionals to the resources they need to grow, scale, and thrive. Extremely excited to have had you on board. Asante sana, Madam Convener. The Lord bless you.
The Lord bless you too. Bye, everyone.